I've lived here all my life. So with the boundary changes that Croydon has had, I now, I would have previously lived in Croydon North, but Steve Reed's boundaries have taken in the first part of Lambeth that is adjoined to Croydon. So everybody's shifted up, which has allowed for the creation of a fourth constituency, which has been named Croydon East. But when Croydon West was named, it's actually an area that I've lived in I was born in it, went to school just outside of it. My family's always lived here, grandparents, parents, uncles. So it's an area that I'm very acclimatized to. It's probably, to describe it, Croydon is a good reflection of London as a whole. So within the borough, we have nearly 300 different languages. That doesn't include dialects and cultures. And I would confidently say that Croydon West is the most diverse part of it. And the constituency, I mean, you can't trust Google, can you? Because you don't know who put the information in. But if you and I were just to walk down the high street, it's a very good 40, 45 of Black Caribbean, Black African, South Asian, Southeast Asian, and of course, some of our more emerging groups. So you've got Eastern Europeans, Kurds, Turks. It's a real melting pot. We've got Bangladeshis. And so, having grown up here, I have uncles who are South Asian. Yeah, uncle, you all right? Da-da. I have, it's a whole vibe, and I'm from here, and yeah, it's the most diverse part of Croydon. So, actually, initially, I had announced that I was running for Croydon East, and I think therein is where the problem with Labour has started, because, and I hope we get into this in the interview. Everybody was quite comfortable when I was running for Croydon East, which is a completely different demographic. A lot whiter, a lot more liberal, a lot more moneyed, well-heeled. So a chick like me with the shaved sides and the whole, blatantly black, would I have done well there? So when we really sat down and had a strategic meeting and we're honest with one another, this wasn't about the ego. This was like, where could we make a difference? It was we finally settled on Croydon West because I'm from there. And so my footprint in terms of my work as well, so I have a whole body of community work, is really in Croydon West. So we decided to build on it. The party with which I am running for, or on behalf of now, a couple of years ago, I was at serious odds with them. I didn't talk to them for 2 years. I would see them at events, didn't join in, wasn't interested. And I have to give credence to the founder, Charles Gordon, who one rainy winter's Saturday evening rang me, and I said, "What do you want now?" Because I wasn't going to have a conversation. And he said, "Look, the state Croydon's in, I've been having a bit of thinking, and Croydon needs you." And my first reaction was no. I'm working the best way I can for Croydon. Who are you to tell me what Croydon needs? I'm here in the thick of it. And so my first reaction was no, swing your hook. And then he came back about 2 weeks later and said, "Donna, Croydon needs you." And by that time, Eliane and had been killed on Wellesley Road. Now, what happened with that was, I've been there when lots of other children have lost their lives on the street in Croydon through knife crime. I have been. I support up to 8 families. And when I say I support, I mean I'm the only person. Council's not interested, police are not interested, and the media are not interested. Politicians locally couldn't give a shit. So this is really me. I mean, I've taken them to dinner. We've done a bowling night. When I talk about support, this is what I mean. I have a WhatsApp group with them in. I try and take a personal interest, check in on them. How are you? How's your wife? Because these things have a ripple effect, right? And just because the child is gone, there is trauma. And there is trauma for siblings who survived. There is trauma for grandparents. There is just trauma, and nobody is dealing with it. So after Eliane, I was going to hang up my shingle, because this was too much now. This was going to be family number 8. And I, as a practitioner, I have a degree in youth work, community learning and development, and social pedagogy. I'd had enough. I was out, because just kept on sticking fingers in dams and nothing was changing. Nothing. We tried this. I tried to support parents. We tried to make all of these social entrepreneurial structures to support in a borough where we are also bankrupt, right? And have been twice. So that man's not coming from the local authority. That man is not coming at all. So a lot of the structures have been carried by the voluntary sector, of which I'm an integral part. And so when he phoned me the second time, I'm a very reflective person. And the expression, if not now, when, and if not me, who? Now, I'd been in the belly of the beast. I'd been a Labour Party activist for years. I had gone as far as chairing their ECF, that's their Ethnic Communities Forum. I'd also been a branch secretary. And I'd even been vice chair of the LCF, the Local Campaigns Forum. So I was well known. I'm articulate. I have good connections within the Black community. So my activism was always, well, it wouldn't be for the Conservatives, would it? Let's be honest. So my activism was always in favour of Labour, almost like a natural, organic relationship. And from it, good things came. Like, nobody could be more concerned that, yes, I am running against Sarah Jones. I have to use the word did have, because I don't know if she's going to still speak to me after this, but we did have a personal relationship. I do count her as a valued work colleague and a friend, not even colleague, friend, because we've been to each other's houses. My children know her, I know her children, her husband even. But when Charles came to me the second time, and before I told him to Foxtrot Oscar, I really sat down and thought, what does Croydon need? And I'm in a borough where when something goes wrong, my phone doesn't stop ringing. And again, I think I've said this to video, but I'm saying it to you now. I don't say that as a point of self-promotion. I say it because it's true. Because often when these things happen in Black communities, politicians and people in charge don't know how to talk to Black people. They don't know how to talk to anyone. But race has that added layer of, oh God, what are we going to do here? So often it will be me, because people don't know how to speak, right? People are afraid because often they don't speak truth. So they come into a community that is almost thrice, and I say thrice, removed from the realities under which they promote, right? Black people don't vote because the system never works for us. It doesn't ever keep our children safe from the agencies like police. Look at the disparities in health. Nothing works for people of colour, especially Black people. So actually, I understand why they don't communicate, but the fact that they don't makes the relationship even more tense, if that makes any sense. So they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. But we need leadership now. Has it been an ambition of mine to be an MP? People have come to me before and said, Don, you should stand, you're great, da-da-da. But I've always said, you've got to see how the machinery works. You've got to go in to see how something works and then come out and tell the rest of the tribe, this is how it works. This is how you do this. And so my time with Labour, whilst it was organic, the reason that I left was because of out and out racism locally here. Joseph, a stallholder in Surrey Street Market, one of our, iconic markets locally, had been cleared, and I know this because I was on the LCF, right? Had been cleared to be a councillor. And then all of a sudden, literally within 12 hours, his paperwork suddenly came up from Central Party. When we as the LCF, colleagues around the table, no, I've seen he's good. He doesn't owe the local authority any money. His rent is up to date. There's no council tax arrears. And literally, within 24 hours, Cara, this young white girl with blonde hair and blue eyes, was announced as the new councillor. Now, the reason that I raise it is this. Racism happens all the time. But I think that was the first time I had an inkling, and I would have said, hand on heart, wow, Steve Reed and Sarah, that I'd given so much time to, are actually racist. Because nobody stood up for Joseph. All of the black councillors, as we do as people of colour, we go around to your house and we make cups of tea and we say, oh my God, isn't the system not fair and all the rest of it. But nobody did anything. Nobody challenged and said, well, hold on a minute. How did we get Cara in when Joseph was meant to be here? And that to me spoke of blatant racism. And I stepped back and I saw that two people that I held in high regard politically let it happen. And as a consultant, one of the things when we're talking about anti-racism and we look at allyship as a topic, it is around how you let things happen around you. It's about proactivity. It's not just saying, well, I saw an act of discrimination and I thought it was wrong. It's about calling it out. It's about that action, isn't it? It's a doing word. It's and they did nothing. And that was the first inkling that I had that maybe this isn't the party for me, because what I am not ignorant of is the fact that if they could do that to Jose today, what the fuck would they try to do with me on another day? Because this is how it works. Today for you, tomorrow for me. And these are people that have access to resource. And another experience that I had was, I remember, this was during COVID, so all of our meetings when the Labour Party were online, and so you had to do votes. And I remember one particular evening attending a meeting where they were going to decide, it was an AGM, I think, who were going to do take up certain roles. And I beat Mohammed Islam by 2 votes to be the secretary for the CLP. Anyway, it was decided online. Everybody's like, well done, Donna, good for you. And I came offline. The next day, Steve Reed's adjutant, Councillor Louis Casarides, phoned me to say, well, you didn't really like being a secretary, did you? You didn't like really being a branch secretary, so maybe you shouldn't take it because it does involve a lot of paperwork and you'd be working directly to Steve and it's actually quite a powerful position, so maybe you shouldn't take it. Mohammed has really wanted this for a long time. So I would strongly suggest that you think about it. Now, I hope I've made myself I'm not stupid. And so I'm from the roads. I know a threat 10 paces off, right? We're not stupid. We can smell bullshit at 10 paces. So I knew this was a threat. This was just put off Donna from taking this role because it's about power, right? And maybe if I had been not successful, because obviously I've been voted in, I would see things and the way things were operated in the CLP, and maybe because Donna is who she is and quite forthright and will call it out, maybe we don't want her so close to the bullshit, right? And then I received another call from a local councillor who said, listen, basically your family could be in danger. Now, like I said, I'm from these streets. So, I want people to be clear. What are you saying here? Are you saying, because I've seen it happen with other councillors when they'd gone for to be the lead of Croydon Council, and they were black and they were female, and they came to my house because they were threatened by thugs, like, you need to give it up, why are you running? And they were frightened. I don't frighten so easy. So what exactly were you trying to tell me? Like, tell me what it is. And that's when I realised that the Labour Party locally is thuggery. Now, I say that because a lot of people, I think the nuances within politics are often lost to people. They think it's, posh white people that wear navy blue suits and white shirts and espouse things. Actually, there's a framework on which it sits, which is protection and retention of power. And when you have people that you don't want in certain spaces, I have fully spent these last 6 weeks waiting for something or someone to do something out of the order that I have to get other people to deal with. Because I now know that Labour is thuggery. And out of the 2 MPs, Steve Reed is far more a thuggish threat than Sarah. Sarah is a good person. Sarah is an excellent MP. In fact, if I'm successful, I will base much of how I intend to conduct the role because I've seen her at work. I have seen her at close quarters. She's about her casework. She does meet with families. I've even done cases for her. She's run me up a couple of times. Can you go and sit with this parent? The child's going to be excluded. So I have advocated on behalf of her constituents for her. And yes, it is a shame. But you know what? In the land where there is no leadership, the people perish. And Croydon is disintegrating because nobody politically is seeing the bigger picture. They are guided by huge pieces of national machinery who want to mould local issues into what they want. Nobody here in Croydon really cares about the Conservatives' £425,000 tax cut for first-time buyers. We couldn't give a shit because we can't even earn 50 grand. We've got professionals here that are in food banks. So a lot of these things, these manifestos, this is really great. But actually, what are my colleagues saying about local issues? What correlations are they making between knife crime and the causes of knife crime, which is a beleaguered local authority where parents have to live in homes filled with black mold? There's no employment for parents, much as for young children. There's no provision for young children. And we've had a cut to all of our most important services for vulnerable children and adolescents and adults across our borough. I don't hear in Parliament, and I'm an I watch Question Time, I watch politics at 2:00 in the afternoon, and I don't hear anybody really talking about the linear plotting of these things. But yet, when a child dies, everybody gathers around and we all look very sad and we say, oh my God, this is terrible. And we cry because we feel sad. But that's it. We go back to doing the same thing the same way. So when Charles came to me, all that I've just explained to you just kind of came to my head. And again, like I say to you, I said, if not now, and if not me. And so I said, yeah. Now, the caveat is the people that had, and I'll say this politely, people that had caused me the distress had to be got rid of, and I needed evidence of that. I also needed to see evidence of a safeguarding policy because before I had raised my complaint, they had none. I also would only join if I had a leadership position because there is no way I'm going to sit as a passenger in the back, given what I've experienced previously. So I want a driving seat, right? I want to be up front and steer this thing politically. And I would have autonomy over the choice of candidates. Now, they ran Farrow London in 2021 or 2022. They did split the vote. They didn't do too badly. Standing still, they took 10,000 votes. The Conservatives only won by 500. So not a bad day out for a small, well, it's registered nationally. I need to make this clear because I keep on saying small and people are like, you need to be careful because So I just want to make this really clear. It's registered nationally, but framed to act locally because they haven't really set up shop anywhere else. Croydon has been their focus because of the decline. Okay. So all of those things I was given assurances of, all of those things I have seen, that satisfied me. We will never be best friends, but politically, people on the bottom, the people that politicians call the underclass, the people who have to make the harsh decision between children's school uniform and paying their rent. The people that the schools I work with have internal food banks for. The families who are fed even through the school holidays because there is no money to feed. Those are the people that I am the voice for. Not the people like me and you, to be fair. Not the people that have no voice. And I have seen nationally and locally that politics has now got to the point where, the Labour Party is just like the 2.0 version of the Conservatives. Let us just be honest for a hot minute. There is no difference between Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer, other than maybe their bank balances. But the way that they pose to the country, there is no difference. So if we have a growing underclass, because we do, you know what I found out while I've been canvassing? I didn't know. So I spent 24 years as the UK Border Force enforcement officer. I left in 2015. So when I'm canvassing and I'm saying to people, they say, well, I would vote for you, but I can't. So what do you mean? Oh, I'm an EU national. Well, yeah, you pay taxes, you live here. No. We can vote for the London mayor, but we can't vote for parliamentary seats because we're not citizens. Well, hold on a minute. So do you only pay part tax then? Or do you pay whole tax? There are so many isms and schisms that have been brought in to really weed out people, who would vote for more people that would vote for change. People are living in situations because crime has been forced on them because there's no other way to live. I used to think wrongly that it was a thing that people did because, they would see you and I with our Rolex and our nice BMW and think, well, they shouldn't have that. No, I have met young people in my own borough who are prohibited from public funds because of their immigration status of the parent that they've inherited. They cannot, if they've been involved in any kind of criminality, they are doubly damned. They've now had children. So say they're in their late 20s, early 30s. They've now got children of their own. They can't leave the UK. They can't travel. They can't get jobs. They get jobs, and then you know what it's like. The first week the HR says, "Oh, could you just send us a copy of your passport with your permission to work in the UK?" They leave the job because they know they don't have the permission, and so they can't go any further. This is life for lots of, I'm going to say tens of people that I've met over these last 5 weeks while I've been campaigning. Who is talking for them? Because I can't hear them. Who is talking for the NHS workers who've got degree qualification jobs that are accessing food banks? Brother, who's talking for them? This is not about race. This is about class. Who is talking for the real working class of the United Kingdom? Effectively, no one. The Lib Dems, the Conservatives, the Labour. I've read their manifesto. I've got to, because tomorrow I'm at Hustings, right, where I've got to be able to disparage their manifestos. But I've read them. They don't make any sense. They're talking about things that local people... Oh, we will improve the condition of education for young people. How? When we have on my borough academy senior leadership teams that are disproportionately permanently excluding poor people's children. Parents get no advocacy, no support for their children's mental health. We're churning them out the other end straight into PRUs. So how is Labour going to help them with education? I don't see that in your manifesto. You're just chatting shit. You're just saying what sounds posh and nice. You're not anywhere near the issues that local people face. And so I feel that the reason that I have decided to run is not because I wish to make councillor level issues, MP issues. No, it's because I can see from the work that I've done and from where I've sat and watched, I've literally spent the last 5 years watching that these people will knock your door for the vote every 4 to 5 years. But in the meantime, could give a shit about whether you and your children live or breathe. Yeah, you want to talk about Section 21 housing? Oh, you want to make that part of your manifesto? Section 21's been going on for the longest time, but now Labour have made it part of their manifesto. I've walked with parents, families to many an eviction. No advocacy, legal aid has been withdrawn. Poor people are dying. We talk about genocide in Palestine, and I am all for it. Like, don't get me wrong when I say this. I'm not in any, there's not a comparative, but I am just saying we've got genocide going on in the working classes of the United Kingdom right here, right now, and I don't hear anybody talking about that. Yet they're coming, and we foolishly are giving them decade after decade, century after century, giving these people our vote. And what do they do for us? Now, so the question might well be, well, Donna, you're from a small independent party. What the hell are you going to do? At this point, I don't, apart from 2 caseworkers and 1 researcher, I would agree we're not exactly built like the other machinery around us. But what makes me think that I'm the right person for this job is not the passion, because I notice, some pieces have been written about my passion, and it's expected, black woman, angry, passionate. No, it's because I have the intelligence to see what is not being done and what hasn't been done and what continues not to be done and what actually people need. This borough doesn't need politics. It needs leadership. Just leadership. The will to work together despite who's conservative, despite, to come together to work in the interests of the borough. I don't see why, and maybe there is, and I have asked the mayor before, the mayor, who is conservative, Sarah, Steve, are not setting up some kind of consortium where we're going to big business and saying, listen, you can take your CSR, we need bigger money than that. What's your tax write-off? What do we contribute here in Croydon as consumers? Right, well, give us some of that back. Not these small grants that Tesco and Sainsbury's have. I'm talking big money, because we have big money problems. We are funded as an outer London borough. So we effectively get like Crawley and Reigate money when we have Westminster, Lambeth issues. That's not a sustainable situation. You cannot work for 12 months if you cannot pay your rent. At some point through that year, you will be evicted because your wages are not making it doesn't make any sense. But yet we continue to vote in people who allow this to happen. I fully, if I'm successful, will be lobbying why we're not getting money like Lambeth, why we're not getting Southwark money. Why have we continued to get this underfunding when we have bigger problems? Why is it that, I mean, what's his name? Oh goodness, I forgot them. London Mayor, Regina Road, he's just given, the go ahead for 54 million pounds to, and I agree it needs to be done because Regina Road was a shithole. They're black mold. You might have seen it on the national news when the ITV came down. The mum effectively had her children in a dinghy. There was so much water and black mold and their health had been affected. So, I'm not going to be churlish about this. But you can find 54 million to rebuild housing, but yet you expect 25 organisations to deliver voluntary sector interventions for £1 million over 2 years. Brother, where is their focus? The focus in what looks good. And the only reason that Regina Road became a news item was because the people who lived there had been calling Croydon Council and nobody had answered. So they took it to the news. Because you best believe if they hadn't taken it to the news, you wouldn't know what I was talking about now in this interview. So, yes, people want to say, oh, she's passionate because she's black. I'm not. I'm smart. And I've been sat here watching what my colleagues are not doing. And this is not a time to nitpick, but this is time to lead. And what happens during hustings is everybody gets really tribal. Oh, well, you don't do this. That's not what Croydon needs right now. When we're back on 4 feet, we can argue. We can argue about tribalism. Right now, we just need leadership. And as far as I'm concerned, I offer that. And the best offer that there is from a local, to bringing some of those national themes and making it relevant for local people is TTIP through myself and through my body of work. And that's why I think it's important for me to run. That's why I think it's important to have independent candidates, because the machinery is big and clunky and it doesn't respond well and it doesn't really know its constituents. Yes, it has its surgeries, but it doesn't go into people's homes in the way that we do when you're from the community. It doesn't understand politics in that very real sharp end. When I'm sitting with teachers who are going to food banks who say, I went to university for this. I've got a postgraduate. You must know it was really bad when, about 2 months ago, people who were on 100 grand were saying they couldn't pay their mortgages. Jesus Christ, I work with people who are on less than 25 grand. So if it's hurting you at 100 grand, what the hell is it doing to those of us on lower income? This is what I'm talking about. Where is the real politics? Politics used to be about real people. Maybe it's my fault because, I'm a child of Thatcher and the miners' strikes and all of that. So I understand in a very real sense what you don't do today, how it will live tomorrow. But I think that hasn't changed. I think we've become fluffy about it and people have wanted to talk less about it, because if we talk about the harsh realities, then we won't get the votes. So what we do is we chat rubbish instead. And we talk about policies that don't really reflect in these people down here's pocket. And I intend for Croydon to be woken up slightly and be more alive to the fact that you're being swindled right in front of your face. It's the worst kind of thievery. How can a Labour council 1.6 billion? You didn't even ask us. Like, this is like, if you're gonna rob me, bruv, if you and I are housemates and you say to me, D, have you got a 20 quid? And I say, no, I haven't. But you see the 20 quid on the side anyway, and you take it. Is that not theft? You took the people their money and you didn't even, there was no public consultation to say, listen, guys, we're on our teeth out here as a council. We want to take some of your council tax money and we want to invest it for you. This is how the investment will work. Blah, blah, blah. Da, 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 da. What say you? No, you were sneaky. You were entitled. You didn't tell the populace, but you took our money, and now you're going to bankrupt us, and we have to pay it back. Yo, listen, I told you I'm from these streets. That's a disrespect. And I don't hear the people of Croydon talking about it. You can't steal from me, and then I must pay back the debt. In which reality is this normal? See, they don't want people to shout and talk about that. They find that uncomfortable, but that's the truth. Croydon's had a hike in council tax because we are paying back a debt that Labour Council, not our MPs, so I want everybody to know that I understand the delineation, that Labour Council dropped us in the ship that we must pay back for. That doesn't make no sense. So why then should we grant their regional representatives grace to represent us in the national arena when you're part and parcel of the treachery and corruption that existed? I had to check my words then because I was about to say something rude, so I had to stop myself. And that, I think a lot of people feel, and I know that I'm onto something because I've had 2 articles written in 2 days, written about me by a publication who doesn't like the last article was entitled "Pound Shop Candidate," because of course they can't be overtly racist, so they've got to go for the things that they can get. I don't give a shit. I'm not going anywhere because I've cottoned on to the fact that the reason that you're worried is because you think I've got a gig, you think I've got a chance. You only come out swinging like this in defense when you think there's no way. If they thought, listen, I'm an old, like I said, I'm from this state. You don't come out swinging for an opponent that doesn't stand a chance. You don't. It's a waste of resource, right? You're not going to send out anybody to fight anything that couldn't be a threat. They are coming strong and hard because they feel that this split, again, what TTIP did before with Farah, which saw them not get their mayoralty. They feel that in Croydon West, which is the most diverse, where I have the heaviest presence, personally and professionally, they feel that this will cost them. And cost them it should. Because sometimes if you don't have the decency to take yourself away, sometimes you must be shown the door. And I think it's time for them to be shown the door. Decades they've taken poor people's votes, and I mean this nationally, right? They've taken our votes. Labour was meant to be a movement. Good God, it was started by working people because they were tired of the upper classes after the First World War taking the mickey. I know the history of the movement. I'm aware of the great changes it brought to the United Kingdom. I'm not stupid. But you cannot have, now you've turned into a 2.0 version of Tory conservatism. There is no difference. There is more diversity on the front bench of the Conservatives than there is for Labour. What the hell are you telling me? But yet, if it wasn't for people from the Caribbean, there would be no NHS from its inception. If it wasn't for people from the colonies, there would be no National Health Service from its inception. Labour has fed off of our decade in, decade out vote. But I say no longer, because you're not. When Diane Abbott, I had to tweet about it. If you go and check my tweets, I said, but look at this, Diane Abbott, the shoulders of which people like myself and many other activists stand, regardless of your party, right? Regardless of your affiliation. This is a black woman who became the first black female MP in the 80s. It was a big thing. I remember my dad watched every newsreel for like the whole week because it was a big thing, you know? It meant something to us as a Caribbean, as a black community. This woman is treated the way that she is. Now, Sarah knows she lives and works in a borough with me, another well-known, popular, forthright black woman. Not even a tweet of solidarity. Why? Because Keir would have said to her, shut your shit. You can't say anything. And that's what politics should not be. You should not be told. I know you have to have whips. I know there has to be some kind of framing. But politics has become inhumane. Within those machineries, they can't even show any humanity. At the hustings on Monday, I listened when a lady from Palestine for Croydon, or Croydon for Palestine, sorry, let me get it right. I've been to one of their events, I had met her previously. Asked, not myself, because obviously we're not national like that. We haven't got any national kind of like mandate. Ask trade union person, Conservative Simon Fox, and Green. What were their stances, their national party stances on Palestine? And she gave some context. She said 250 people die every day. Where was your party's stance on the ceasefire? And I listened as one by one, people gave. I couldn't believe that. Well, what we've got is a package where people talk about packages. Simon spoke about packages of money. Nobody spoke about holding the UK to account for sending over, was it now 70 flights full of army personnel out there to support Israel? And I sat there. Nobody mentioned these were human lives. Nobody mentioned that these people had families. Nobody mentioned that maybe these are children. Nobody mentioned maybe these are pregnant women. Nobody spoke about the rape. Nobody spoke about the realities of genocide. Not one of them. I was the only one who spoke and said, "Sis, I stand with you because I am a product of genocide. I am a product of the transatlantic slavery. Whoever gig that was, I'm a product of it. Several generations later, and I know what living that trauma feels like." So yes, what this does cause is generations later that trauma, that response to oppression. But I wanted her to know unequivocally that I stood with her because I see the humanity in everyone. Because the same reason that I stand with the LGBTQ community, it's not because I necessarily understand, because it's not my lived experience, right? Like, it's not your lived experience to be a black female. But you see, if I say to you, come and stand with me because today they're picking on black females, and you say to me the week after, yo, D, come down there because they're picking on, that's how it has to work. And so I stand with her because, listen, I remember the riots of the 80s when the police wanted to kill black men and still, kill black men, without any impunity in custody. I stand with you because I know what it is not to have your humanity taken seriously. And I couldn't believe that representatives of national parties just talked about policy and money when this woman had said 250 lives are taken every day. And that's what I mean about politics. It's become bloated. It has become walrus. It's we're all right, whether we get your vote or not. The little that we miss, it's fine. And it's become dislocated. It's like a big wound. It's got a lot of fluid. It doesn't connect. It's not agile. It's just a thing that happens to us nationally. And yeah, the next morning we all wake up and we say, oh, we've either got a Conservative or a Labour government, or maybe there's been some kind of coalition. But it doesn't speak to the realities of the people who vote. And I thought democracy was meant to be about the participation of the people who want that kind of representation, right? Is it people using you, choosing you because you're going to actively say these things in the national arena? And I don't think that's happening anymore nationally, but I think here in Croydon, there is an opportunity for me to make that difference. And who knows? Maybe this upstart can be a blueprint for others. I mean, in all of my life, and like I said, I've followed politics closely, I have never known there to be a time to have so many candidates standing independently, ever. I'm sure, I speak to Anwarul and others, people in Pan. I think this is it's a nominal historical moment, isn't it, in terms of politics, because so many people are standing independently and people are listening to their voices because they're saying, well, actually, you get what I'm saying. This is, I could care less about tax cuts for the rich. I want to know when I go to Sainsbury's or when I go to Aldi that the little treasured £15 I've got in my pocket is going to buy my children cereal, get me some bread and some ham, and I can buy 6 or 7 juice boxes so that at least they go to school with something to eat at lunchtime. That's all we want to know. So I've been in touch with Transform, a young man by the name of Anwarul. He and I have had some lengthy conversations, and what the conversation with him really kind of did for me was, he was like, sis, this is just the beginning. There will be bigger conversations because of this swell this, this real groundswell of independent political thinking. And he's like, as a black woman, you need to be part of that. You need to be in these rooms where other people are talking about this. So for me, all right, whether on the 5th I wake up and I am the MP or not, this is just the beginning. And I'm young enough and bright enough to give this at least 2 more goes. So, hey, I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. And if this can start collegiality nationally around how we start an independent political movement that will hold these people to the fire, I'm for it all day, every day.